Completing the editorial is the first priority of ours, and apart from that, we are going to look and give a glance to few of the important news that are over there. So, starting with the editorial, so changing politics, incompatible governors. Governor is an important topic that we study in our Indian polity. So, starting with the editorial, Veldrin Rodriguez is a former professor at the Mangalore University and the Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is the writer of this particular editorial. I hope so. Yeah. So, talking about this editorial, which is related to governor and its role. So, the governor are once again becoming public spectacles in many states, as seen in Punjab, Maharashtra, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Delhi, and in a few other earlier. Three issues stand out in their grand standing with the elected government in the state in the question. First is that what are the three issues? So, firstly, governor is getting appointed by the center in the state. So basically, they are working kind of working for the center, although it's a unbiased post particularly, but they can be removed anytime. So that is one thing. So for that, they need to show certain kind of their favorism or favoritism for the center because they are the one who have appointed them. So it's just a check and balance role between the union and the center. So there are three issues particularly. So let us read one by one. First, these are the states where the non-BJP government are in power. Second, contrarian. The contrarian intervention of the governor are in the name of the supposed power of the union or the constitutional rectitude. And the third, their disagreement is spill out in the open to the media, reinforcing a political divide. Recently, the governor of the Tamil Nadu, R.N. Ravi, seems to have opened another front, that is, defining the idea of the Indian nationalism and imparting lessons to the Tamil people. Fortunately, there are a few governors, even under non-BJP regimes in the state, who have shown the sagacity of sorting out issues with their respective governments without attempting to muddy the water. While there have been endless arguments on whether the governors enjoyed a discretionary authority or not, and if he does, under what constitutional and legal provisions, they may not be able to clinch the argument on an issue as they do not necessarily rule out the contrarian stances. One of the examples of the populist posturing is to play the blame game and accuse the other party of doing the same when it was in the power. While such charges may be factually correct or close to the charge, bad precedent may not be the example to imitate. These charges also do not take into account the great churning that the Indian polity has undergone over the year and the challenges that institutions confront to remain abreast with them. Sea change in the state. The arena of the relative autonomy of the state underwent a decisive turn from the late 1980s without formally altering the constitutional frame very much. This transformation was manifest in the rise of the new political party with their focus on the state, liberalization of the economy, and greater devolution of the economic responsibility to the state. States were made to realize they could not pass on this responsibility somewhere else. This shift of the power and the responsibility was also reflected in the policy measures such as that of the 73rd and 74th amendment of the constitution authorizing the local governance inclusion and the devolution of the power reform initiated by the PV Narasimha Rao, ram manohar singh Ram Manmohan Singh team of the economy and the judicial verdicts such as the Bomai case that mandated the invocation of the precedent rule in the state called for the wider political consensus. Admittedly, the relative autonomy of the state has enhanced their presence as well as the responsibility. This enhanced the role of the state does not in any way challenge the union power, but generally tend to complement and supplement the new challenges and the opportunities that it faces. The fear of the centripetal tendencies that marked the early year of independence no more hold the good as far as broad expanses of the India are concerned. Atal Bihari Vajpayee detected this shift early and made a remarkable attempt at coalition building 1999 and 2004 that reflected much sensitivity to the new role that the state were called upon to play. This initiative was also an acceptance of the strong regional leadership in the general and the regional parties in particular. Strong states were not seen as an affront to the national unity, but the latter itself was conceptualized as being forged through the robust regional bond. In fact, the Vajpayee political initiative jolted the Congress party from its focus on the centralized polity, predisposing it to the pre-poll coalition at its Panchmari 1998, later the Simla conclave. While the rise of the BJP and its shift to the Hindutva as its ideological plank from the 2014 onward have affected the re-articulation of the Indian federalism, the groundswell that led to the appreciation of the state autonomy continue to persist even today. Sound reasoning iterates loud and clear. The state cannot be cordoned off within the boundaries of the fiat of the center any longer. Now, state leadership to four. Given the metaphorism of the politics that the India has registered, state leadership, be it of the ruling party in the center or the regional party, invariably called upon to assume the greater initiative and responsibility. Its performance has a bearing not merely on the state concerned but on the nation as a whole. State-based initiative have cascading impact on the neighboring state as well. If a regional party has performed well, the center should try to outshine it by promising to do better. Interestingly, India's constitutional frame and particularly its interpretation by the judiciary hereto has been in synchrony with this shift in the political arena, a reality check. In the changed context, the governor assuming that they know better that elected state leadership goes against a reality check and may not even serve the interests of the ruling party at the center. If they invoke the constitutional provision of the defense of their actions, such a reading from often turn out to be a Sibolt. While the constitutional reasoning that resulted in the institution of the governor of the India may still hold good today, it calls for a reorientation. As the constitutional head of the state, there are innumerable concerns, particularly the directive principle of the state policy that could be framed of the conservation of the governor with the government. Such a conversation, however, need to be in the form of an engagement with the government and the state legislature rather than meant to be project him as an independent power center. The changed context also calls for listening to and closely public votes and deliberated reasoning in the state and elsewhere rather than harping on the constitutional status. Moreover, as a link between his state and the center, governor bring the wider concern and promises the state to attention to the center as well as the public at large, which parties in the politics may tend to sidestep. To be in the tune with this demand, the governors should not merely have their ear to the ground but also be attuned to the embedded ideals of the common good manifest in its institution and the public culture. In a country such as India, it is not difficult to find such person. It is handy to have in these position elderly politicians who are surplus in their ruling dispensation or retired bureaucrats and the public personnel who are subservient to their political master. Although criticized for some of his administrative preference and the political wave, one governor who I can recall who measure up to the mark in the changed context was the T.N. Chaturvedi, governor of the Karnataka 2002 and 7, during a difficult period of the change of the government, both in the state as well as the center. That was all for this particular video. Thank you.